This is Gemara in Sotah, Daf Ches, and today's shir, the shirim for Pesach B'siyata Dishmaya, has been generously sponsored by a very close friend of the Daf, the Mishpacha, very close and dear to my heart. B'siyata Dishmaya, the learning of the entire Chabura, should bring Rav Eliezer Moshe ben Shema an incredible Aliyas Neshama. His yahrzeit is going to be on the second day of Pesach. That's going to be tomorrow's Daf. But we like to learn, starting today, these dafim will be up well before Yontif to give everyone time to prepare adequately. The learning, the schos, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, should bring Rav Eliezer Moshe ben Shema to a higher place in Gan Eden Shalmayla, closer to the Kisei HaKavod B'siyata Dishmaya. We're holding on the first wide line of Zayin Omid Beis, in which we quote the Mishnah, Im Amra Tamei Ani, that if the woman says, if the woman says, Tamei Ani, if she says, I am Tamei, says the Gemara, meaning, she not acquiesces, but she admits, she says, you're right, I did an Aveira, she wants to come clean, and she doesn't want to be subjected to the Mei Sotah, which will, in such a scenario, cause her death. Says the Gemara, said the Mishnah, you write a shayver, you write a receipt for her ksuba. From here, says the Gemara, Shema Mina Kaisvin Suba Shayver. Shmas Mina, that you write a ksuba, Zaraya. That you write a shayver, you write a receipt for the ksuba. Amar Abaya, which whoever remembers was a large machlokes, whether indeed that is true. Amar Abaya, no. Tani, read into the Mishnah Mikaras. You don't actually write the shayver, but rather you rip up the ksuba. Amalei Rava Vasheveris Katani. How can you tell me that the Mishnah reads rip it up? The Mishnah says you write the shayver. Ela Marava Be'emakom Shein Kaisin Ksuba Askina. We're done with a place which there is no ksuba in the first place we're in. And that is, and Rashi points out 3 lines to the bottom, how can you do that? You're saying on the Tanai Bezdin that you give the basic 200 or 100 for a psula or an amana, and therefore there's no concern, therefore you don't have to write a shayver at all. Continues the Gemara in the bottom line, but what if she doesn't admit? Then Ma'alin I said the Shar Mizrach, bring her up to the Shar Mizrach, Sharnik Anar, she's going to have to drink the Mei Sotah. Says the Gemara, Ma'alin I saw, you bring her up to there as we turn over to Chesem et Beis. Says the Gemara, Hasam Kaima. What do you mean you bring her up to that area of the Shari Mizrach of Shar Nikanar? She's there already. That's the place that she got the warning. That's the place that she sat there by the Lishkas Agazis. And the Bezdin Agazal tells her and tries to scare her not to drink the Mei Sotah. Answers the Gemara, Demaskina Allah, Umachtin Allah. They take her down and they bring her up. Why? Kidei liageya. In order to exhaust her. Titanya, we learned in a Brisa and Sanhedrin, Rabbi Shimon Elazar Aimer, Bezdin Masiyan as Aidim Imakam Lamakam Bezdin would bring the Aidim, move them from place to place, Kadesha Titraif, Daitan Alehem. So they should unsettle their minds, and therefore what? The Yachzur Bahan, and they're going to retract, and they're going to be chayzer. If indeed their testimony is false, we want them to admit. So similarly with this woman, what do we tell her? We move her around in order that if she is indeed lying, she will admit and thereby not cause her death. We continue, Chesem and Aleph, 4 lines down, Shesham Mashkin es Asaitais, V'chulu, etc. Says the Gemara, Bish Lama Saitais, the fact that the Sotah drinks at this area, at the Shar Nikanar Dechsev, I understand as the Pasuk teaches us, and the Kohen stands in front of Hashem, and that's going to be the Shar Nikanar Shari Mizrach. Mitzaira Inami, the Mitzaira as well. As the Pasuk says that we stand the Kohen that is purifying, referring to the Mitzaira V'Gomer. Eliyoledes, my time, why is Eliyoledes? The woman who after giving birth is bringing the karbanos to become tahar. Why is she bringing the karbanos to this area? If you're going to tell me, Misham de Asyan, V'Kaimin Akravinayu, if you're going to tell me that the reason is that we need her to breathe there standing over her carbon while it's being brought, but says the Gemara, Titanya, as we learned in a Brisa, in Karban Shaladim Karav, Elohim kein oimid al gabav, that you don't bring a carbon unless you're standing on top of it. So we need this woman before she becomes tahar. Oimid al gabav, we needed her to be there at the time of the carbon, and that's the reason why the Yeladais are by the Shari Mizrach. So the Zav and the Zavais, who are as well bringing their karbanos, as we learned extensively in the end of Nazir, and they are as well mechusar kapara. The sun did not set, and they didn't get their kapara until they bring their karbanos. So they as well should come to the Shari Mizrach, to the Shari Nikanar. Says the Gemara, you're right. Ein hacha nami. That is indeed, we include Zavin and Zavis in the Mishnah. V'tana chadaminayu nakal in the Mishnah just listed one of the case of Yoledes, but this is not in exclusion to anything else, but rather it just lists one of the potential cases of Yoledes, but Zav and Zava would be the same din. And we continue, Tanu Rabbanan, Ein Mashkin, another halacha is with regard to Sotahs. Ein mashkin shei Sotahs ke'achas. We do not allow to be drunk two Sotahs to drink together. Why? Similar to a din that we saw already in the Mishnah. We don't want one heart to be haughty on her friend, meaning that you feed off the energy of the other. There's two women there, and one is drinking. The other, maybe she would have admitted to her crime, but she's drinking, I'm going to drink as well. So we don't want to create a situation, and therefore we don't allow two Sotahs to drink at the same time. Reason number one. Rav Yehuda, a second reason, about 20 lines there on the first word in line is, Yehuda, no, that is not the reason. Ella, you know what the reason is, says Rav Yehuda. Amar Kra, says the pasuk, Oisa Livada. The pasuk, when it talks about the pasuk in Bamidbar, when it discusses the Sotah drinking, it says her by herself, meaning to exclude that you never will have two Sotahs drinking at the same time. Asks the Gemara of Tanakama, Ksiv Oisa. According to Tanakama, he says that the reason is we don't want liba gas v'chaverta. Why doesn't he learn it out from the pasuk? Says the Gemara, Tanakama, Rabbi Shimoni the Darish Taima Dikra. Tanakama is Rav Shimon. And what does Rav Shimon hold? That we explain the reason of the pasuk, meaning we indeed do learn it from the pasuk of Isa. So why did the Tanakama give a svara, give a reason? Because we're going within Shitas Rav Shimon, that what? We darsh in time of Dikra. Says the Gemara, Matam Kamar. Matam Oisalavadakte Sheiliba Gas Abichar Verta. Says the Gemara, the reason of Rav Shimon is so that it's not going to be Liba Gas Bechaverta. So my beinayu, so ask the Gemara, so what is the difference between the two reasons? Ika beinayu, roi seses. The difference in two cases, a woman who is trembling, she is very, very afraid, but she still claims that she is innocent. So in such a scenario, according to Tanakama, we would allow her to drink at the same time as another Sotah. Why? Because don't worry, she's going to be gas, that she's just going to hold her own because of the other one, because we see she's very, very nervous. Whereas according to Rav Yehuda, the pasuk is a pasuk. Ask the Gemara, really, Raisa says me mashkin, would we allow such a woman, such a nervous woman that she's so afraid of the whole process, would we actually allow her to drink the Meisaita? Asks the Gemara, Veinais and mitzvahs chavilois. There's a third reason why two Sotahs can never drink at the same time, for the classical reason that we don't do mitzvahs in bundles. Tetanan, as we learned in our Mishnah, in mashkin shnei Sotahs ka'achas, and vein mitarin shnei mitzayra ka'achas, we don't make two mitzayras at the same time. Vein roitz in shnei avadim ka'achas, and we do not make a hole in the earth of two avadim at the same time. Vein arvin shnei agalois ka'achas, and we don't decapitate two agla aruvas at the same time. Why? So ask the Gemara, very good, this woman is trembling, but Lamaisa, what about the reason that Einois in mitzvahs chavilos, Amar Abaya, V'itemer Rav Kahana loy kasha, kam b'koyin echad, kam b'shnei koyanim. You're right, if it's all the same koyin, then you have the situation of mitzvahs chavilos. But if it was separate koyanim, then you do not have that issue. Before we go into the next Gemara, just to see one Rashi about 8 lines from the white lines, Rashi says, what's the problem of mitzvahs chavilos? Rashi says, because it appears like a burden. You're just trying to throw it off of you. Let's just put all the mitzvahs together. And this is the reason why it is a real question. People ask, can I make a siyam at a sheva brachas, at a vart? It is a mitzvah, it isn't a mitzvah. It's a real thing. We don't want to just potter up our whole life. And therefore, that would be the reason over here you couldn't do it at the same time. We continue about 20 lines on the bottom of the 2 dots. Now we continue quoting the procedure of the Mishnah. The kohen grabs her clothing and rips it up. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braisa, Upares Reisha Isha, that they would uncover the hair of the woman. Ainli Ella Roisha. From here we learn how they uncover her hair. Gufa minayin. Where do we know that they uncover her body? They rip her clothing. Tamulaymer ha isha. It means it makes her hair. It destroys literally, but what it means is the kohen unbraids her hair. Rav Yehuda Aimer, so we said in the Mishnah, he rips her clothing, rips it open, and then Rav Yehuda said, but wait, if her liba is noah, if she had a beautiful figure, if she has nice breasts, then we have to be nervous that no, it's going to entice the kohanim, and then you don't do that. Says the Gemara, from here it would seem a fundamental, you say this idea within Rav Yehuda. It sounds like Rav Yehuda's of the opinion, be careful, hear her, there are Kayanim there, they're going to see her and be attracted by her. And come the day, hear her Avera, they have improper thoughts for Rabbanan, who argue on this idea, sounds like Lo Chaishi. But ask the Gemara, we learned the opposite. The Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. When they would do skila, when they would stone a person, Rahman al-Islan, says the Braisa, that a man, they would cover the front of him with one piece of clothing to cover his makim erva. And a woman would have to be covered over with 2 pieces of clothing. Why? So over here we see the Rav Yehuda is covering her up. No, the man is stoned unclothed, but not the woman. So over here we see the opposite. Over here we see that the Chachamim hold Eina Isha Niskal Aruma, that you have to be, that your woman, is not stoned unclothed, which contradicts what we just said. Rav Yehuda is one that's saying that no, she is undressed, okay? They just put a piece of cloth in the front and the back, but Lamaisa, she's going to be fully unclothed. So does Rav Yehuda worry about it or not? Here it seems not, but in our Braisa, it seems yes. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rabba, Hacha Taima Mai. By Sotah, why is Rav Yehuda concerned that if you rip off her clothing, someone might see her and have hair? Because maybe she's telling the truth, and she's going to drink the Meisait, and she's going to live. And then what's going to happen? And the young Kohanim are going to be aroused when they see this woman, and they're going to chase after her. Hasam. Whereas in the case of the skila, they're stoning her. So there's no concern that we really have to be worried about. Maybe you're going to tell me, maybe you're going to tell me, wait, they're going to see this one undressed by her skila, and we have to be afraid that they're going to cause the people around to go and stumble with a woman. But says the Gemara, Ella b'mashe'inav ra'i. See, Tzahara only rules over that which your eyes see. If your eyes don't see it, then it's not a concern. So if this woman's going to be stoned, then it's less of a concern. Amar Rava, says Rava. 1 second. Rav Yehuda kasha. Rabbanan loi kasha. Says Rava, what's going on over here? You're asking the Rav Yehuda, but what about the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan like Asha. You didn't answer up for the Rabbanan. Ella Marava, so rather Rava explains, last line of Chesam and Aleph, the Rav Yehuda like Asha, why Kiddushan? Like we explained, turning over Chesam mid base, the Rabbanan Nami like Asha, why not? What is the reason over here by Sotah Misham v'Naisru Kol HaNashim v'Nivasru Kol HaNashim, as the pasuk says, and all the women should receive Musar and now learn from this woman. And therefore, that's the reason why we make her undressed, and that's the overall reason. Meaning, what's the whole concern over here of Rav Yehuda that maybe someone's going to see this woman undressed and they're going to be having her Aveira? Answers the Chachamim, no! The reason we're undressing her is to embarrass her, is so that all other women see and say, whoa, I better not have any inappropriate relationships because it could come to something dreadful. And that reason is more important than anything else. Whereas Hasam over there, whereas in the case of the stoning, she's being killed. So what we think people are going to be aroused from such a story, she's about to go through skila. Maybe I'll say 11 batarti. Ask the Gemara, so let's do both. In the case of skila, we should be mevayish her. We should embarrass her, make her get undressed, and then stone her. Says the Gemara, this we see one of the incredible gadlus of the Torah, 4 lines down, Chesem Abeis, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Avua, Amar Kra. Says the pasuk, we're killing this woman, but yet v'yahavta l'reacha kamaycha. This still is the dictum of love your friend like thyself. Baruch la'misa yafa. Here we learn out, you have to choose a beautiful and easy death, and that's the reason why she's going to be killed. But lamaisa, we can't add insult to injury, and we can't go overboard and make her be embarrassed as well. Says the Gemara, Lema de Rav Nachman Tanahi. Should we say that which we just learned, that whether there is this yeside of bar lamisa yafa is the machlokes Tanayim? Says the Gemara, like the kuliyam esud Rav Nachman. Everyone agrees ostensibly that when Beis Din have to execute someone, or Chavad al-Islan, they have to do it in the most favorable manner. You know the machlokes is Mar Savar, the Chachamim hold Bezuna Adiv Latvei Mitzaira de Gufa. The Nikud over here is that if one is stoned undressed, he's going to die quicker than if one is stoned dressed. So say the Chachamim, the Bizyona is Adivla, the personal degradation is more significant, even more than the Tzaira de Gufa, meaning a person would rather be dressed when they're getting stoned, even though it's going to take an extra minute to die, because they don't want to be degraded. We see the power of Bizyona. Whereas Mar Savar Rav Yehuda holds, no, Tzaira de Gufa Adivla, a moment to die quicker is better to fame Bizyona more than being embarrassed. And we continue, 2 dots, 12 lines down. There's a mechus levan, and they put on black, black they put on white. Says the Gemara, Tana, we learned that if the black are nice for her, then we put her in something nice. It's not just to change the clothing, but rather to dress her something which is unbecoming. And the Mishnah says, like Leizav, they have to take off her jewelry, etc., etc. Says Gemara Pshita, of course you have to take off her jewelry. Now we're coming to make her minavel, make her disgusting. We're ripping off her clothing, etc. Honey, me, boy, you would think that we let her wear her jewelry. And the answer of the Gemara, fascinating. Says the Gemara, 1 second. You know what the Havamina would be? Was Mao the Tema to keep your jewelry. But honestly, it's bizayon fakes. It's more of a bizayon for this woman to have tattered, ripped open clothing and be wearing beautiful jewelry. Why? Kedamri Inchi, as people say, Shaliach Artil Visayim Misane. As people say, he's not wearing clothing, but yet he's wearing shoes. It's like a bizayon. It's even more ridiculous to wear shoes and wear nothing else. Similarly to this person to wear jewelry and nothing else. Kamash Malon, that's the chiddush of the Mishnah, that no, she cannot. We remove all her jewelry. We continue with the Gemara, the 2 dots, about 20 lines down. Says the Gemara, V'achar kach maybe chavel ha'mitzi. They bring this rope, this Egyptian rope, and they tie it l'mala meidadeha to hold on whatever level of tattered clothing she has left. So says the Gemara, Boi minei Rav Abba me Ravuna. Rav Abba has a fundamental shaila to Ravuna with regards to this chavel ha'mitzi that they would tie in this woman. Chevel HaMitzri Ma'u She'akev B'Saita. Is the Chevel HaMitzri, does it have to be an Egyptian rope? Mishum shlosham de bigadeo ma'aluhu ubetzilzel katan namisaki. Is the whole purpose to hold up the clothing? They ripped open her clothing and they want to hold it on her body at some level. So they tie her with some level of rope. So then a tzilzel katan, even a little string, would suffice. He chagrala betzilzel lefikach kayin maybe chavala mitzri. She girded herself with tzilzel, with a belt. So the kain puts on a belt on her as well. And they ties her above her breast, ma'akif. And therefore it is ma'akif. So the Gemara is trying to figure out what is the purpose of this chavala mitzri. Is it another level of degradation or no? Is it specifically the fact that it is a chavala mitzri? Amar Leitin Itua says the Gemara vacha maybe chavala mitzri kashal ma'al meidadel. And here the Brisa speaks out why. Kedei shalai yishmetu begadel me'alah. So we see that's more of a practical purpose and not necessarily have to do with the type of material of the rope itself. Continue at the 2 das, 20 lines of the white lines. Here, anyone wants to see this woman could watch her get potentially blown up. Says the Gemara, Hagufa Kasha, the Mishnah itself is contradictory. First, your Amik, whoever wants to see her could see her. Alma, what do we see for their Loishna Gavri, Loishna Nashi? Anyone's allowed to watch this terrible process of the Sotah. Vahadratani, but then the Mishnah says, Kol Anoshim Mutar Zeraisa. Men could see him. Women could see her. Noshim in, anoshim lai. So then it sounds like that only women are allowed to see the procedure of the Sotah. So what is it? Is it a spectacle for anyone to see or just for the woman? This explains the Gemara, Amar Abaye, Tigma, anoshim. Read into the Mishnah, even men. Amli Rava asked Rava, he says anyone. Ela Marava, but v'nashim, the woman, are chayavos l'roisa. They have to see her. Why? Shenemar v'nasikol anashiv lo sasenik v'zal necha. That the woman should see it. They should take a lesson. Don't act in a lewd and inappropriate animal like an appropriate manner like this woman. So the chiyah for the woman to see. Anyone's allowed to see, but it's a chiyah of an obligation for the woman to see. We continue with the Mishnah. About 15 lines of the white lines on Chesma Beis. Says the Mishnah, B'midah shaya maydin lai. B'midah shaya maydin ba, maydin lai. With the same midah, the same measure that you act, Hashem measures out to you. He kashtas atzul aveira. She made herself beautiful doing aveira. Hamakam nilvla. He, and Hashem makes her disgusting. Calls, Hashem hamakam nivla. He calls as atzul aveira. She revealed herself for an aveira. Hamakam kala Hashem reveal the aveira that she did. Bayarech has chila. She starts with her thigh. Ba'aveira tchila. V'achacha betin. The first she sticks at her thigh and then her stomach. During the Ma'aseh Zunos, lefikach tila ke'ayerech tchila. First, her thigh gets stricken with this issue. V'achacha betin. Then her stomach blows up. V'shakol leguf loipalat. And then the rest of her body dies afterwards. So we see the same order of the aveira as the order of the punishment that Hashem gives her midah, the keneged midah. Says the Gemara, Amar Av Yosef, Afal Gaf, De Midah Betela, Bimidah Loibatal. Says Rav Yosef, it's true, the Dal and Misais Bezin are no longer the 4 ways that Bezin can kill a person, but Bimidah, with the similar type of measurement, was not Batal. What does that mean? Damar Rav Yosef, Chaytan Rav Chiyam Yoim, we don't have Sanhedrin to carry out the death penalty, but the death penalty did not cease. Says Mar, what do you mean? Yes, it did. The manner, the din of the 4 misas did not end. Meaning, explains the Gemara, if someone is obligated in stoning, what happens? President doesn't kill him. But he can fall from a roof, or an animal rips him up. If someone's obligated to be burnt, he gets burnt in a fire, a snake bites him and the poisonous venomous is like fire goes through his body. Is given over to the government to listen by enough. Strangulation, he drowns in a river. Oi, meis bisurunchi, which is a type of disease in which one feels that the throat is constricting. Says the Gemara Tanya, with this we conclude. Haya Rebbe Omer in the first white line. How do we know that one gets paid back to the same measurement that he did? From here we learn out that if someone does an Aveira for Isa, how do we know? How do we know that any amount of a measurement he as well will get paid back? The third white line says the Torah kikol sa'ain b'ra'ash. Every measure is measured. How do we know even down to the penny, the pruta? Talmud loymar. Whatever she did, she is paid back. She stood at the entrance of the house so that the man could see her and be attracted to her. She stands by Shar Nikanar, the entrance. And she put on 9 beautiful kerchiefs to attract people's attention for Zanos. But this kippah on her. There it goes. Takes off the veil from her head. Puts it under her legs. She puts makeup on her face. She dresses her. We turn over to Tesam and Aleph. Panel Marika is her face blows up. She puts on, makes up her eyes for the Maisa Zunos. Her eyes bulge out. She braids her hair to look beautiful. Therefore, we're 3 lines down. She pulled him close with her finger. Now she shows her fingers, nail falls off. She put on a belt for him. Brings the Egyptian belt, ties it above her breast. She extended her thigh to the man to have relations with him. As her thigh falls, she accepts him during the Maisa Tashmish on her stomach. Therefore her stomach is going to blow up. She feeds this man the pleasure of the world. She has a lowly carbon. She fed him good wine. Because and great cups. She has to drink the bitter waters in an earthenware pot. She did her action privately. Some ba upon him. Hashem looks at her and watch. And Shamra. Nashav Lamer Lysis Serenu Ayin Begaimer Davar Acher. With this we conclude. She thinks she's acting in privacy, but Hashem makes it public. Shenemer Techasa Sinam B'Masayin Tigla Ra'asai B'Kehal. And this pasuk means the Chasa Sina, one who covers over the hated b'mashayin, by the darkness. Tigala Rasa Bakal, the evils will be revealed to everyone. It won't be in private anymore. Everyone will know of the Avera that they did. We're going to stop over here and pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.